Hey everybody, before we get started, I just remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Adam the Harp, Ika Comics, Ika Zume, Architect Hand Blackers the G, Carlos, Dragon, Ferris, Jeremy Vasquez, Jonathan Sandoval, Legendary Boss Hunter, Liam Kessler, Richard Raptor, Rogue Robin, Charvor, Shiny P, Sun Guy Named Siren 23, and Varian the Crow. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon and get access to episodes early, and that's what really helps out. Thank you for your support, everybody. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk FGO 1TED, the show where we let you know if you want to roll that 5-star. I did another funny intro, and I have no fear of this one getting copyright clickled, because it's like a 1-second audio clip. So, great read. Anyway, hi, welcome to Wanted. So, we're doing a fun little 2-for-1 for you today. We have a permanent new Saber who's 2 guys now. Yes, I do references. I'm sorry. Anyway, if you've never watched a Wanted before, first of all, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button really quick, so you can get more. But what we do here is we talk about a servant's real-life history, their fate lore with a capital L, you know, all that juicy lore people talk about. But we also talk about their mechanics, because that interests a lot of people in what niches they want to fill, what servants they want to roll. And, of course, we talk about their rarity. Not their star rarity, because Wanted is usually 5 stars, barring special episodes, but how frequently you can expect those rate-ups, because even with permanents, you never know. Maybe you want that added extra percentage on your sweet, sweet rate-up so you can actually get the servants you want. So, with the intro speedily out of the way, I guess we're just going to slam jam right into the history. Also, fair warning, in between takes, I am literally farming requests. So, if I suddenly, shift in tone, it's probably because there was a pause there so I could slam some NP buttons. Y'all can relate, right? So, Dioscuri is a collective noun for the mythological twins, Castor and Pollux, or Polydeuces. I'm not entirely sure why the double spelling, I didn't look it up, and I'm probably mostly just going to use Pollux, because it's shorter, and I don't have to say deuces. Anyway, Dioscuri literally means sons of Zeus, so it's very interesting etymologically. We'll get into that one later. The term Gemini is the Latin one, and it just means literally twins, so that's arguably the more neutral terminology. You've probably heard that one just as much in your real life. The twins might also be called the Tindaridae or Tindarids, after their mortal dad, Tindarius, the king of Sparta, so they are also Spartan princes. Now, the big thing is the Dioscuri's parentage, and this evolves over kind of like a mythological timescale. There's a couple of different variations. So our earliest accounts by Homer place them as completely mortal, the sons of Tindarius and Leda, which would make them brothers to Helen of Troy and Clytemnestra, though both twins are reported as already dead by the time the war breaks out. Helen literally stands on the wall and goes, "Oh, hey, I don't see my brothers out there." So that's the Homeric version. However, the phrase Dioscuri actually appears in some fragments of Hesiod's poetry. I believe it's Catalogue of Women, though it's fragmentary, so double-checking this is sometimes a little hard. Anyway, that's where the noun appears, and both of them are counted as sons of Zeus. So, this whole narrative issue of the splits between the two big sources, between Homer and Hesiod, seems to have been conflated by the later popular culture. The first reported source I've seen doing this was Pindar, but it seems to have just been, in the oeuvre, as it were. So that only one twin is a son of Zeus, and the other is the completely mortal son of Tindarius. So, Pollux is a demigod, Castor is a mortal man. Yes, this is the same Leda from the Swan thing. Yes, this also means that in some myths they are born from an egg at the same time as another egg which hatches into Helen and Clytemnestra. No, don't question it. Honestly, this whole unsure parentage theme is very common in Greek myths. You see it a lot with a variety of culture heroes. Herc, for instance, as Alcides. Theseus has this issue. Meleager has this in some myths anyway. There's a lot of hey, was your dad maybe a god? Now, the twins have a variety of talents. In the Iliad, Helen specifically calls them out and calls Castor Horsebreaker and Pollux the Boxer. So yes, Pollux has a long history of being a pugilist. There are also some other interesting attestations as patron deities, which we will come back to unpack in a second. That kind of happens at the end. You don't usually get deified while you're alive, mostly. So, we'll come back to that, but yeah, they have a variety of things. Horsing and punching being the big ones. So the Dioscuri are attested as Argonauts, and in some versions of the Argonaut tale, Pollux defeats the king of Bithynia, a country on the Black Sea, in a boxing contest. They are both also considered excellent hunters and partook in the hunt for the Caledonian boar. So, pretty typical generational big stuff. Also, interestingly enough, they have some myths about looking out for their sister Helen, such as when Theseus, hey, remember that guy, briefly kidnaps her, so they invaded his homeland of Attica to rescue her, and also they kidnapped Theseus' mom back, and install his rival as king of Athens while he's locked up in the underworld for a bit. You can go look this one up on your own if you want to know more. It's not really relevant, but it's very funny. So, unfortunately, the bit about their death, which also, to the previous bullet point, coincides with them not watching Helen 6 around Paris of Troy, is a bit general. There's not as many specific details. A lot of this material was contained in the epic poem known as the Kypria, which has been lost. It was well attested as basically a prequel to the events outlined in the Iliad. Nobody wanted to step on Homer's toes, so the Kypria covered basically the lead up to everything. So we do have the broad strokes, but as far as I can tell, a lot of the beat for beat actual lines and all the fun stuff is lost now. Curse you, history. So the Dioscuri are beefing with their cousins, Lynceus and Idas, who are also twins. I know, wild. It starts when the Dioscuri steal their cousins' girlfriends, the Leucippides, daughters of Leucippus, Phoebe, and I think it's Hilaria, but we'll just go with that. Also, by the way, keep this in mind for later when we do fate stuff. Canonically, each of the Leucippides bears a Dioscuri, a son, so the line can continue. Now, as revenge, the twins are tricked by their cousins after a cattle raid in Arcadia by beating them in an eating contest, not kidding, to keep all the cows. So they go to Arcadia, they steal some cows, the twins are like, yo, I bet I can eat this faster than you, and whoever eats it the best gets the most of the cows. Bye. So, yeah, pretty spicy. Now, as triple revenge, the Dioscuri set out to steal the cattle back, excusing themselves from home to steal off in the night, and also accidentally the Trojan War, because they left Helen solo with Paris. Good job, guys. Looking out for your sis. Now, however, Lynceus' name means lynx, so this motherfucker can see in the dark. I shit you not. This is the source I read, okay? He spots Castor waiting as a lookout. The two cousins shank him with spears, but not before he calls out to Pollux. Pollux kills Lynceus with his bare hands, but as Idas is about to kill him, Zeus intervenes with the old Bolt 3. Talk about family favoritism. This is just pure nepotism. So this then concludes in the famous anecdote you've probably heard of before, where Zeus offers to let Pollux ascend to godhood and live on Olympus, but Pollux decides to split his immortality with his dying brother, so the twins spend their time between the heavens and the underworld, represented as the constellation known as Gemini. Some versions is Zeus gives him the choice straight up. I think the myth reads better if Pollux is like, no, father, I shall split it with my brother. So, yeah, pretty big deal. Thusly deified, as many constellations are, the twins are associated with horses and horsemanship, which, by the way, is a very common theme with Indo-European divine twins motif. There's a lot of divine twins in Indo-European mythology, and they often have associations with horses. They are also the patron deity of sailors. They appear to them in the form of St. Elmo's fire, which you should totally look up, but watch out for that one movie from the 80s. As a symbol to protect them from hazards, they are also associated strongly with certain mystery cults because they are associated with rebirth and immortality. So a recurring visual symbol is them wearing peaked caps, possibly the shells of their divine eggs, which may or may not be crowned with stars. There's a lot of star symbolism here. There's also, guess what, a lot of twinned symbolism for the Dioscuri in religious iconography. Twinned crossbeams, twin amphora, twin shields, or twin snakes. You can insert your own Metal Gear joke there. So, the Dioscuri are very important deities to the Spartan culture. Makes sense, they were Spartan culture heroes who became gods. But the Spartans had a dual kingship system, so their symbol of the twinned beam was an icon of protection for the Spartan army, and when their army marched, they would have one king remain in Sparta with one of the twin gods. So they, split the kings, they split the gods, all that stuff. It was, at least according to sources I read, a common Spartan oath to swear by the two gods, and images of the Dioscuri were often hung from pear trees, which were considered sacred to them. Big boy myth stuff. There are also some very interesting rituals for these dualistic deities, not only because they are twins, but also because of their nature as half immortal. So, because they are both on Olympus and in Hades, they are both offered animal sacrifice as gods and libations to the dead as spirits. This was a very common motif for them, so that's pretty interesting. There's also a ritual known as Theoxenia, which is something like god guest or god hospitality, which is often associated, but not exclusively, with the Dioscuri, where you have food laid out for them as the gods, and they are summoned to the table, either in your home or in a public setting, as kind of like a way to show hospitality and give back, I guess. Also, the Romans were very keen on the twin gods, who also had an apparent Etruscan equivalent, Castor and Pultuce? I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce the C in Etruscan. Anyway, the Romans built temples to the twin gods after they allegedly aided them in a battle. This also might be related to the Roman practice of evocatio. Look it up. But in short, the Romans weaponized cultural appropriation. And the twins were said to accompany the legions in battle. They were particularly favored by the cavalry, the equites, for obvious reasons. Also, interestingly, in some Roman period comedies, it was said that women swore by Castor and men swore by Pollux. I'm not really sure what the, differences there are. But there is also a Roman source that says Pollux and Hermes were lovers, resulting in Pollux getting a sweet horse. Bang a dude, get a horse. So, my final note here on the mythology is, in case you couldn't tell, the Dioscuri were super popular gods. And you may not have realized this because they were so popular with the people that their cults persisted into the Christian era, which led to dedicated attempts to Christianize them and replace them with appropriate saints. Peter and Paul, for instance, are a very common use of replacing Dioscuri iconography. So, these guys were such a big deal culturally that they had to be Christianized out because people kept worshipping them. It's pretty interesting. Let's move on to the lore. So in terms of fate, the twins are actually quite interesting as servants. They are an example of basically a twinned servant, a single spirit origin which splits into two physical bodies, since they cannot be separated on a conceptual level. Being part of an asterism literally called twins will do that to you. They are also a rare instance of a double-class servant, though that's not unheard of, possessing qualities of both a saber and an avenger. See, while given their nature, the twins could probably count as an avenger anyway due to disposition. You'll notice several times I talked about how they would just go about doing revenge and stuff. The fate version of the Dioscuri, and using that name, remember the etymology, both twins were originally sons of Zeus, or children of Zeus in this case, but, Dioscuri is literal and gendered, and would be divine spirits, but later interpretation by humans makes them a pair of fraternal twins and degraded Castor's divinity. This makes him a bit miffed. Pollux, though, both as a fighter and a boxer with a divine body, is recorded as a saber class, possibly relating to the notorious Ken pun. I would have said lancer or rider given spears, but whatever. We need more permanent sabers. This is the dominant class container in normal heroic spirit summoning, but it does also mean that Dioscuri is the only servant so far, at least according to their profile, who isn't technically an Avenger who has skills like Oblivion Correction that are mostly reserved for them. So that's pretty interesting. No, I have no idea why Castor has a discus, other than perhaps the Dioscuri were also considered the patrons of athletes and athletic contests. I also have no idea why Pollux is a girl, other than maybe some of the notes I had in the history element about different genders' relationships with the twin gods. But on the other hand, there are a lot of statues and images of the Dioscuri rocking out with their cocks out, which I could not use for the video, so, It's probably just their effort to keep everything balanced. It does something funny when we talk about rate-ups later, though. Now, I will say, though, their physical design is actually historically attested, though. Dares of Phrygius described the twins as blonde-haired, large-eyed, fair-complexioned, and with well-built, trim bodies. Slightly paraphrased, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, no, that's actually on point. That is at least one of the oldest descriptions. I do believe that was related in the Iliad. You can double-check me on that one. By the way, in the Third Grail War, the Edelfelts were said to have sent two masters, who were sisters, who summoned a twinned servant who was supposed to be a saber, so ruminated on that one, y'all. Now, the Dioscuri first appear well before being summonable as Lost Belt servants in Lost Belt 5 Part 1 Atlantis, which hopefully you've cleared by now, because we're about to start Lost Belt 5 Part 2 Olympus, and in that chapter, in the Lost Belt 5, they are servants to Kishtaria Wodaime. The playable version is still their dual saber Avenger thing, but is supposed to be the pan-human history version, so they are not quite as butthurt as the NPC version you may encounter. But they don't really have a lot of heavy story involvement after that. They are bonus servants for the upcoming Little Big Tengu event, and they do have a St. Quartz Interlude and Interlude Campaign 15. Also, according to one of the wikis, they appear in the story of the Liz Halloween Return, Halloween Rising, but I think that might just be as, like, a character in the background. We'll see if that actually plays out. But yeah, not a lot to go in on the lore. There's a lot of, like, interesting technical stuff, but otherwise, it's pretty normal. One of them's a saber, one of them's an Avenger. And they've only really had the one big story appearance. So, we'll move on to mechanics. Alrighty, on to them mechanics. So Dioscuri are a new permanent SSR Saber. They have fairly medium attack, but high HP, in terms of their comparison to other SSR Sabers. Now, they are quick, arts, buster with strong hit counts, and also some other nonsense. You'll see why we get in there. Their MP gain is kind of average as a result, but it doesn't really matter, and you'll see why once we get through the complete skill kit. So, their NP deals big single target damage with arts, and grants them 1 turn of Pierce Invul on top, and also makes the target weaker to arts and quick for 3 turns based on overcharge, minimum 10%. It is also 8 hits, which is why the NP gain is probably a little lower, but also still doesn't matter. Because obviously, while they have an arts NP, the Dioscuri being twins are kind of a true hybrid of arts and quick. You'll see how this plays out when we talk about their active skills. Their first skill gives 2 on-attack buffs for 3 turns. One where, when you use a quick card, you generate 5 to 10% NP, and the other where an arts card generates 5 to 10 stars. This is bonkers. Kind of shoring up, they don't really do solo chains except maybe an arts chain with your NP, but still, for 3 turns, 10% free NP on quick cards, and you already get NP gen. Stars on top of arts cards, which already, give you NP gain as well. Not good at star gen, but, it's crazy. It's pretty good. So, skill 2, on the other hand, is basically an alt on Voyager of the Storm. It's a 10 to 50% attack up and NP damage buff for the team for 1 turn, and a 1-time 3 turns debuff immune for the team as well, on a 7 to 5 turn cooldown. Now, obviously, when we talk about skills later, and you may decide to yourself your priority, this one's probably lower, but still, 5 turn cooldown on 1-time debuff immune, spicy. Now, their final skill is one of them, our mana bursts. It's a 10 to 20% quick and arts effectiveness up for 3 turns, but also gives them 1 turn of evade, so you have a hard defense. And it's over 3 turns, so it's not a complete whiff if you have to use it as an NP steroid. So, fairly good package. Now, befitting a double servant with a double class, the Dioscuri have a fuck ton of passives, oh my god, basically 2 servants worth. You have Magic Resistance A, Writing B, Madness Enhancement B-, so their 1 Buster card actually does some things as well. They have Avenger B, which means they generate a lot of NP on hit, Oblivion Correction C for crit up, Self-Restoration D, which also means, by the way, they regain 3 mana every turn. 3 NP comes up every turn. Pretty nuts. And then they have Twin God's Essence, which is a damage buff, divinity style, and a 5% increase to NP gain and star gen. These are crazy passives. So yeah, Dioscuri are pretty strong grinders with a strong potential to loop NPs, which can pierce hard defenses. They have their own hard defense. They are strong on debuffs. Not only do you have that 1 time, but also you have MRA. It's pretty solid. And you can still manage to have great star-generating abilities. You have, passive star gen. You have star gen on arts cards with their on-hit buff. You generate oodles of NP. It's crazy. Very effective for a brand new permanent unit. Now for CEs, I would personally probably lean a little bit more heavily on arts than quick because of the NP being arts and that being your big source of damage. But there are a few hybrids from events, such as Merry Sheep or CKT, which can be quite good as well. If you want to get started early, you want to get their NP gain up there already, even though they don't need a lot of help with that, consider the Summer-style art CEs with 50% starting NP, Dive to Blue, that Hokusai one I can never remember the name of. There's a lot of these that come out of Summers, that if you MLB them have 50% starting NP. But, since they can generate NP pretty good on their own, with max skills, and also you have other servant slots to help, you might also just augment them with some basic stuff like Formal Craft or another ending, just really boost those rookie numbers up. So for team comp, I think Dioscuri are a great centerpiece to a variety of builds. They are going to be your main damage dealer. That is what they do. They damage a boss. You could arguably whittle down adds with this, but it's a boss killing servant. So Weaver's agnostic buffs can be slightly preferred, obviously because they have both quick cards they want to use and arts cards they want to use that kind of blend together. But you might also consider bringing on a Tammo to provide healing, stalling, and more NP gain. Plus, also, with the skill cooldown effect, you might help the Dioscuri with a couple of their skills being longer cooldowns. Their Mana Burst and their on-hit buff are both 6-turn minimum, so maybe worth it. I don't really think they can Scotty loot because you don't get the same overkill effect with arts, but her skills do actually still make Dioscuri pretty strong. That's a 50% battery. You can increase the effectiveness of those quick cards pretty well, and they're already got a huge advantage there. And, you can't go wrong with defense down. Also, obviously, keep your eye out for Castoria later this year, because arts is back, baby. But I also want to throw this out there. Don't forget your budget options. A Paracelsus or a Hans will spice up any Dioscuri build since they're already fairly self-sufficient. They have most of the stuff they need to do what they want to do. They have a lot of good ways to generate NP, both passively and while attacking with a variety of cards. They can generate stars. They are a Saber, so their star weight is decent, so they will be able to turn that into crits, which they also have a slight boost on. So, there's a wide variety of things you can get out there. You can spice that up just a little bit with a little bit of spice. Now, unfortunately, the twins pay a heavy cost for this efficiency. Their Ascension requires 24 chains, 9 cores, and 12 of the brand new Godball mats. Yeah, I don't know what we're calling this one yet. Unfortunately, skills aren't any better. You are looking at 44 chains, 11 comet shards, and another 24 pondered orbs per skill. You may be trucking on this one for a while. Obviously, you'll be able to farm those once Olympus actually comes out, but still, you need 12 for max ascension and 24 per skill, and you want some of those skills up. It is nuts. So obviously, moving on to rarity, Dioscuri are permanent after the initial Olympus release banner, and so you could be spooked at any time. However, as I alluded to earlier, because they are literally a boy and a girl, you get some other interesting opportunities, because being a permanent, they'll be included in the rotation for both Valentine's Day and Chaldea Boys collections in the future. Obviously, technically, separately for each twin, but still, it means that they've got a lot of broad opportunities. They're also included in any Saber class-based campaigns, and they do have a rotation period confirmed on the 6th anniversary, but they are contending with Koyanskaya of Light there, so that's probably not going to be an easy sell. However, I would like to point out that JP is also doing this whole Road to 7 thing right now, where they're referencing past lost belts and doing check-ins and stuff. I expect Dioscuri will probably get another mixed banner this year sometime. Just throwing it out there. But anyway, that's what I got. They are a pretty strong new permanent unit, and thanks to the power of Future Vision, we know that Arts is about to have a huge comeback in FGO, so I think this is a decent investment, though yes, it is an investment, but a decent one if you are looking for new sabers of a single target variety, perhaps which are permanent, because they didn't exist before. No single target permanent SSR sabers. It's a little weird. But yeah, I'm kind of under a bit of a production crunch doing all this, so I'm not going to keep you any longer than that. That's what I got in my notes. I hope you enjoyed that dive into history and mechanics and stuff. A fascinating servant, both in and out of the game. Check them out. I wish all of you luck on the banner if you are rolling, and I hope that you all wish me luck on the banner to get more Canuses than I do get Dioscuris. I'll be sure to report that to you on this week's Let's Talk FGO. By the way, hey, we do a podcast every week called Let's Talk FGO. It's about FGO news and memes and other fun stuff. We'll be sure to have some Olympus first impressions for you if you want to go check that out this weekend. Should be live to public Saturday. And our patrons can enjoy it earlier, possibly even listen to it live. Alright, enough shilling, though. I just need to make up for the fact that I may be, tapping my wallet for a 4-star here soon. Let's plow on in here and wrap this up. So, if you like this video, be sure to give it a like. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. You can also hit up our Discord. That link is always in the video description on our channel page. We have a roll thread if you want to post your results of banner rolls. You can do that in the roll thread. It's cool. Join us. If you're new here and haven't already, do like I said at the front and subscribe really quick. Tell your friends about it. Hit that bell for notifications so you always know post a video, because sometimes I post wanteds at weird times. Very frequently, actually, because of maintenance schedules and just FGO being weird. So hitting that bell can help you know when we've got a new wanted coming up for you. You can also join our channel membership. Click that join button or the link in the description. Get access to membership badges and emotes, and it really helps us out. It's only $1.99 a month. We just need some slightly more members so we can get some more emote slots so we can try out some new stuff. And of course, as I mentioned at the front of the show and just now, you can support us on Patreon. You could have gotten this episode early for as little as $5 a month. And lots of other interactions with our podcast, Let's Talk FGO, and lots of other things. And that's it, Second star to the right and straight on till morning, I guess. That's nautical, right?